Greetings, loved ones. Today, we are going to talk about patterns of sexual abuse. So to help get these messages out, I always say this, please subscribe to our channel so you won't miss a single episode. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit that like button, and please share these messages with others because you never know, just by doing so, if they watch it, you could save somebody's life. So, abusers often use sexual assaults and or harassment as a tool against their partner. It can be difficult for victims and survivors of sexual assault to discuss this form of abuse because of shame. We encourage survivors and their supporters to become aware of the patterns of sexual abuse and open the doors, open up the conversation so that they could know that there is no shame. It is not their fault. So here we have, a list of sexually abusive behaviors. So the abuser will joke about women and sex in the presence of the victim. The abuser will look at women as sex objects, not as a person, but as an object. They will pretend to be extremely jealous, or maybe they will be extremely jealous. They'll minimize the victim's feelings and needs regarding sex. And they'll criticize their partner in sexual terms. They'll touch the victim against their wishes. They'll molest them. They'll even withhold sex and affection. And sometimes the aggressors, they will attach sexual labels to their victim. They'll call them sluts and whores or frigid. And they always demand sex. They force the victim to undress in front of them as a form of humiliation. And it could be also in front of the children or other people in the home. Abusers are usually promiscuous with others. Sometimes they'll even force their partner to witness their sexual acts with others. They'll use threats to back up their demands for sex. They'll force the victim to have sex with them, or sometimes even with others. I've had cases where they've forced the wife to have sex with their friends. A lot of times too, they'll force sex after they'll beat the victim. I know somebody who was beaten half to death, and then he came back and said he was sorry and wanted to have makeup sex. So can you imagine, after being beaten, being forced to have sex with the person who beat you? Another common thing with patterns with sexual predators is that they view pornography, and they may force their partner to view it, and then they force their partner to perform the acts that were seen in the pornography. Sometimes the abuser will use objects and or weapons in sexual acts. They'll be involved with sadism and mutilation, and it can come to the point of murder. Only a few of these actions are usually visible to others. And one of the challenges that victims of violence face is the negative social attitudes that promote violence against women. Many women believe that they are obligated to have sex with their husband or partner or perform sexual acts he desires because they are married or together as a couple. Many pastors, their wives, and church leaders tell women that they must be submissive to their husbands, and if he wants sex, you cannot deny it. We had a case, horrible case, where a woman was completely controlled by her husband, beaten, demeaned, and insulted on a daily basis. He would watch pornography and then force her to act it out with him. She went to her pastor and his wife for help, and they told her, I could not believe this when she told me, they told her that her responsibility before God was to pray for her husband, endure his abuse, and hope God changes him. They told her that if she left him, she was violating her marriage covenant. She told me that she was terrified of Valentine's Day and her anniversary because she knew the suffering that she would be forced to endure in the name of love on those days. Fortunately, we were able to rescue her, and she and her children are now free. God does not command a woman to suffer abuse. I want to be very clear on that. Pastors' wives, leaders in ministry, everybody out there, listen to me. God does not command a woman to suffer abuse. If Jesus Christ was standing there, he would not allow it to happen. The very fact that her husband was doing these things means that he had already violated the marriage covenant to care for, to protect, and to love his wife as he loves himself. So I told that pastor that he had violated God's justice, and that because he did not act to stop the suffering and told her to endure it, that he was an accomplice with every insult, every slap, and every rape that occurred after she came to him for help. This makes me extremely angry. As a Christian, as a woman, as a leader in ministry, this makes me extremely angry. God does not command a woman to suffer abuse from her husband because they're married or because they're together. And if your church is telling you that, you need to leave that church. If someone comes to you and tells you that they are a victim of abuse, you must act. As we discussed earlier, this is mishpat. How we treat the vulnerable. We will be judged by God, and failure to help the vulnerable is a violation of justice. This is a really emotional point for me. The question is not if you're going to encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what are you going to do when you encounter them? This series is dedicated in honor of Gabby Pettito, a really intelligent, beautiful, delightful young woman whom the world has lost because of gender violence. Every time I see her picture in the videos, and it's not just her, she is provoking the knowledge of this type of problem. And her life is going to be a light that sheds the light in the darkness on these horrible things that we need to address, that we need to act on. You know, you could be the person who saves a life. People are, in her case, are calling in and they're giving all kinds of evidence. In the moment that that stuff happens, you could be the person who saves a life. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice. Those who suffer violence need all the people who love them and anyone they encounter to step out and to reach out to them, to intervene in their situation and give them the courage and the help that they need to leave before it's too late. If you're a victim of violence, I want you to know this. You are loved. You are beautiful. You are intelligent. You are valued. And God does not want you to suffer violence. He wants you to live in peace and tranquility. If you're a victim of violence and you find yourself in a dangerous situation, call 911 for help. And reach out to somebody. Keep reaching out to somebody until there are people there to stand there to help you. To help get this message out, please subscribe to our channel so you won't miss a single message. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Hit that like button and share these messages with others. You know, just by doing so, you never know that you could save a life. Someone could see the video and say, oh, that's what's happening to me. Or someone could see the video and like, oh, I recognize this in somebody. And then we step out and act. In our next episode, we're going to talk about negative social attitudes in relationship to abuse and violence against women and children. Until then, God bless you.